Story 1. My little brother is chronically late, always has been his entire life. So many late slips getting to school. There was one time where I parked at the supermarket and waited in the car while he ran in. He said he would be 5 minutes. I said I'd time him. He came back 15 minutes later. I told him he had been gone for 15 minutes, and he was genuinely shocked. No way, I replied. You got out of the car at 3 o'clock, and it is now 3:19. You were indeed gone for 15 minutes. It seemed like the first time he realized that he didn't understand how long a minute was. He genuinely thought it had only been 5 minutes. So there's your answer. His internal sense of time is poor. Story 2. I once had a roommate who would never leave until he was supposed to be there. He had this idea stuck in his head for years that you should never leave until the event time. He got fired from job after job because he would never be on time. He was always whining that he missed the start of concerts and movies because he was always late. One time, he left to pick up his girlfriend in Vancouver, a 4-hour drive away, at the exact time she was due to arrive at the airport. He was over 4 hours late. They broke up soon after this. Being late is completely disrespectful to the people that are waiting for you. Story 3. I had a gym buddy who was always 7 minutes late to our agreed-upon time to meet and work out. This happened often enough for me to purposely arrive 7 minutes late myself, and we would start together. When I asked him about this, because it got annoying, he didn't even really realize he was arriving late. I eventually figured out it took him 7 minutes to cycle from his home to the gym, and that the time we agreed on was actually the time he left the house, not when he arrived at the location. He's a truly nice, thoughtful person whom everyone likes, so I couldn't and still don't believe he was doing it on purpose. I also shared an apartment with him for a short time and noticed every time he left the house, he had to meticulously tidy up his computer room and straighten his keyboard, and I don't think he noticed even that he was doing this, and it was making him late. He didn't have any other obsessive-compulsive disorder tendencies like this, other than needing to meticulously res-tack the dishwasher before starting it. Lastly, he himself would say his father was always late to everything. His father is a successful businessman, and my friend really looks up to his father, so he most likely adopted this behavior subconsciously through mimicking. For those of us who are very particular about being on time, we probably got this from one of our parents too. Story 4. Poor time management skills. I have a relative like this. Always one more thing to do. Oh, I should water the plants before I go. Okay, now I'm ready. Oh, maybe I should pay that bill while I'm out. Okay, now I'm ready. Is that a crease? Maybe I should just give this blouse a quick iron. Story 5. Quite a lot of identical replies so far, but one additional psychological term to check out is pathological demand avoidance. That can be pathological demand avoidance or persistent drive for autonomy. When someone with pathological demand avoidance does not have enough time for themselves, they will allow the minimum possible amount of time for getting somewhere on time, or just not worry about being late. Story 6. Many years ago, I had a friend who agreed to meet me at the bus stop to head to university together. Every single time, they would be 15 minutes late. Later on, when we were hanging out in their room, they told me they would see me from their window and that they would always spot me waiting at the bus stop, and that was their cue to start getting ready. No shame about it. I asked them to be more considerate of me, but it never changed. I stopped waiting for them but continued to be friends with them despite how they would be late for everything. Years later, they got a job. It turns out they have no problem turning up on time for that. So we're not really friends anymore. Story 7. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder but am consistently early, like it's an addiction for me to have 15 minutes to spare. In a way, it's also terrible because I'm so hyper-focused on being early I can't think of anything else during the day. My partner is autistic and is always late. I suspect he gets it in his head that certain things take an exact amount of time. For example, it once took him only 15 minutes to get to work, so it must always take only 15 minutes to get to work when it actually takes 20 on average, so he just carries on like that. I tell him to be places 15 minutes earlier than he should be to make sure he's there on time. It works, and I'm already there every time. Story 8. My ex-husband is chronically always late. He exhibits time blindness and selfishness. He regards it as other people's problem and sees being early as some kind of affront. He has no concept that it inconveniences others and expects others not to be bothered. He's missed flights, trips out, the first half of theater shows, ferries, meals with friends, and has let our kids down many times. I used to lie about the real times of flights so we'd get to the airport on time. His attitude was, they'll do that last call thing if I'm not at the gate on time. His new partner called me upset a few times when they first met, asking if I knew if he was okay or had been in a car wreck or something. Despite all of that, he's basically a good guy, and we co-parent amicably and are still great friends, but it's been exhausting. The kids are now older teens and take it in their stride, but I've shouldered their disappointment over the years. Regularly, he picks them up after he finishes school, as he's a teacher. His school day finishes at 3:15. His school is a 30-minute drive from mine, and he's meant to pick the kids up around 5 o'clock or 6 p.m. It's always more like 6:30 or 7 p.m. He will then be stressed about being pressed for time when they have evening activities to attend. He will also sit in his car outside my house, listening to music at full blast while reading his phone for 10 minutes before coming to the door. He has zero awareness of others. His mother is the same but apologetic when late. His grandfather died due to running to get on a train he was late for, slipped, and fell onto the tracks into the train's path. You'd have thought they'd have learned. Of our shared kids, 2 are always on time or early for things, but the one with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder struggles with time management when uneducated. Story 9. I underestimate how much time I need to get ready, while simultaneously trying to multitask other things I need to take care of before leaving the house. Sometimes, if it is early morning, I would have overslept. Sometimes I just don't care to go, and you are seeing the result of me dragging myself out of the house. Story 10. I ended a friendship once because she was able to be on time for work, class, and events she planned, but never anything I planned. It was a choice she was making. Story 11. On the other hand, the opposite, being always on time, might not be as easy as people might think it is. If I have an appointment for 12, my whole day is pretty much gone. I can't do anything before because I can't risk being delayed by something and being late, and I can't plan anything before because I can't tell how long it's going to last. Even if I was 10 more times at exactly the same appointment and ended at 1 in the afternoon, I'm not going to plan anything for 2. From 10 to 12, I'll basically stay dressed up, doing nothing, waiting to go. I'll then go, be 15 or 20 minutes earlier, and wait outside or in the car until I'm 5 minutes early. Story 12. A Generation Z coworker at a previous job tried to claim a disability she called time blindness, was making her late all the time, and said that she could not be expected to be on time ever due to this. She would just show up when she wanted. However, she always managed to mysteriously be able to leave right on time at the end of her shift. She actually sued the company for unfair dismissal of a disabled employee. The judge apparently laughed her out of court. Story 13. I think everything takes 5 minutes, but I have no concept of the actual passage of time. If I'm doing something, time whips by, but if I'm waiting around, time slugs along. It has nothing to do with the other people involved. Story 14. I never used to be like this, but around 2016, when I started experiencing other health problems, I started just not being able to get there on time. I always used to get places an hour early. Now I aim to do the same in order to get there at the arrival time. It is so extremely upsetting. I've been to a neurologist and a therapist, and I've tried attention deficit hyperactivity disorder medications, but no help. I know it's a real difference because I used to be the one angry at late people and thinking they have no respect for me, but now, for the life of me, I can't. I know that some of it is that getting ready takes longer and is more difficult, but if it was just physical pain, I think even old me would have managed to be there early. I don't know. I feel terrible about it. Story 15. Not me, but one of my friends. Whenever we decide to do something and plan the time, say like 7 p.m., he always says, "Okay, I'll finish my errands and come." If we decide to meet at 7 p.m., 5 a.m., or any time possible, he will make his errands run just before we meet so that he just takes one trip in the day instead of doing his errands early, then going back home, then out again to meet or something. I asked him once about respecting our time and to not be late or tell us in advance, so we don't waste our time just waiting for him. And he always says, It's not a big deal. It's just 1 hour late. Well, I couldn't reason with him anymore, so I kind of cut him off. Story 16, brother, great question. It enrages me. So incredibly rude. Like you're not late to work. You're not late to doctor's appointments. It's disrespectful of me and my time. Very inconsiderate. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and my son has autism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Story 17. I'm late a lot. It frustrates me about myself and has frustrated others. I don't like letting people down and I'm stressed about being late, so I've spent some time analyzing why I do something so self-destructive. I think it's a few things. Perfectionism. I want to have optimized my time perfectly. I want to have achieved too many unrealistic things before I've left. If I am 10 minutes early for the train, I stand there thinking and worrying about the things I should have done in those 10 minutes instead. Things just seem to take me longer than everyone else always have done. I leave work late all the time even though I want to be out of there because packing my bag up takes about 10 minutes. Everyone else's is done in seconds. I've watched people and I cannot work out what they're doing differently. I want to be faster. I am ready to go and somehow I've lost my keys. Put them in the same place. I have a place for them. Why aren't they there? I find them in places I have no memory of putting them. These have included in a dressing gown pocket in the fridge, still hanging in the door from when I last came in. I can't account for this every time because it can take anywhere between 1 to 60 minutes to find them. I can't leave 60 minutes early every time, right? Generally being behind in life, so cramming it all in before I go. I read a comment here about someone's mother-in-law folding the washing before going on holiday, making them late, and why didn't she do it 2 days ago? For me, I wanted to do it 2 days ago, but something else urgent came up and then I somehow forgot and then it was rained on again, so I had to wait for it to dry and you get the picture. So I end up doing things that make me late that I needed to do days ago. If I just start getting ready sooner, I still end up leaving at the same time. If I give myself 6 hours to get ready, it takes 6 hours. If I only have 30 minutes, it will take me 30. I choose a reasonable 1 hour so I haven't just spent 6 hours of my day getting ready. This then means when something goes wrong, I have absolutely no time to spare, rather than maybe 10 minutes of leeway. Part of me believes a lot of people are 5 to 10 minutes late for a range of reasonable reasons, so it's kind of fine. I don't mind waiting if people are 10 minutes late. Things happen. I'll sit and look at the menu while waiting for my friend on a coffee date and watch the clouds. It makes a nice change from the running around. Is this attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? Possibly. Too long. Didn't read. I may have been 10 minutes late, but that's probably saved me 2 to 3 hours of time somehow. Story 18. I used to always be late. I had this sort of absent-minded professor syndrome. I would have to be somewhere at 6. I would look at a clock and see that it was 5:55 and think, oh, I have plenty of time. And it would be a 30-minute drive. I eventually worked hard to get over this. Now, however, my wife and I often run late because of my toddler. Everything is going well, planning to leave 30 minutes early. Then a blowout diaper and temper tantrum happen, so we end up leaving 5 minutes late. Story 19. My wife has a tendency to always be late, which has now caused me to always be late as well. While it is easy to say poor time management as an overarching reason for it, I have spent some time thinking about what actually causes this to happen. I know that she legitimately plans for many things and focuses on getting ready on time, so I find it hard to dismiss these efforts. Instead, what I've noticed is that she has this design in her mind of how things will go down to the minute. With this setup, she would arrive at her destination exactly on time. However, as we all know, things don't go as planned or are forgotten. She will set an alarm and assume she will wake up and be moving on the first bell, and be upset when I set an alarm 15 minutes prior because she doesn't need to be awake yet. Then there's an unforeseen bathroom stop or a longer than expected breakfast session. Oh wait, she's actually got an extra 5 minutes. That means she can squeeze in one more thing that she has to do while she's in this productive mode. However, that ends up taking 10 to 15 minutes. This all adds up to her being anywhere from 5 to 45 minutes late, depending on the cascade, and yet she cannot shake the perfectly set up timelines that she creates. The only thing we've been able to really make work is focusing on being ready like 45 minutes beforehand because we will then usually get out around on time. Story 20. Work and chronic sleep deprivation. I worked 4 16-hour days and 2 10-hour days this week. Add in my commute and that's 4 hours of sleep a night. I was consequently so tired today I just couldn't get out of bed early enough to leave on time. This happens a lot. But I can't just quit my job.